CI/CD stands for continuous integration, continuous deployment or continuous delivery. Okay. So this is the concept to automate our application deployments. Usually deployment is little complex procedure. You need to take different things to deploy. So if you are doing that manually, sometimes the guy who's doing that procedure may miss some steps.
Yeah.
Not proper, and sometimes the application will work, but due to the misconfiguration, it will work not as expected, right? So
Yeah.
if you automate this procedure in a more systematic manner, so the deployments are very stable and very fast, right? So that is the idea of this concept. Okay.
Mm.
In our projects, usually in real time, there is multiple environments, right? So we have the development environment to develop the applications, and we have the test environment to test and to assure the quality of application is good, test or QA, and we have the UAT environment, and some people call this as a pre-production, pre-prod, and production. So this is some kind of standard structure followed in most of companies. Some companies may have the staging environment, some companies may have only dev test and prod. Fast and hard rules like we should follow like this only. Okay. So depends upon company financials, company standards, they follow different kinds of environments, right? So when we have different kinds of environments, we need to deploy our application to different environments, right?
Yeah.
Deploy to development environment, deploy to QA, deploy to pre-production, and deploy to production. So what is our strategy to deploy our applications to different environments? What need to follow that strategy? Okay, so the strategy mainly requires each environment. For each environment, we have a source code repository. Majorly, this is source code repository is very, very important. Most of companies use Git or Bitbucket as a source code repository. And where we actual our sources resides, right? What we call code resides. So in source code repository, we have different branches for different environment. For development, we manage all the development code in a branch called develop. Develop branch. And all test environment, the release branch. And most of this production called it master branch. This is a standard terminology used across the industry. All companies use it. Master as a production branch.
Master. So anybody, and so each entity, each organization, each company, they will have a Git repository, right?
Yeah, Git repository.
And all the staff, all the developers, and use those. They have access to like developers and master and all that. And is that correct?
Developers have limited access to repository. They don't have access to the master repository.
Okay.
Most people, they have the access to develop repository. Sorry, develop branch.
Okay, so all the developers can deposit or store, and they can use that and get to reposit, right? Whatever the project they're working on.
Yeah.
All right. And anybody in that group has, will need to have access. And
Development team mostly have access to develop branch, and some people have the access to release branch, but usually won't get access to the production branch. Sorry, master branch.
okay,
So this
okay,
has admin only. The kind of DevOps team, they have access to master branch.
mhm,
So they will manage this master branch, merging all the stuff, right? So when
got it.
you develop anything, what we need to do is we need to branch. We need to make our own branch from the develop branch, right? This is you want to develop some small
Projects, yeah,
application or whatever. You need to
yeah,
already the code is there. You want to do some kind of enhancement. You need to branch the develop branch with some add-on code, something like that,
mhm,
and you develop that application. And once you finish your task,
mhm,
do one thing right. Do one thing. You create a pull request. Something called pull request.
okay,
Pull request means you are saying the
it's
people.
ready.
I am done. I'm done with my task.
Yeah,
You use this code. If it is fine, you can merge this code to develop branch. If
okay,
when you create a pull request, you need to give the reviewer name. You who want to review your code. Okay.
okay, okay,
Probably the application architect or some guy, the peer reviewer, certain tech lead. He will review the code. He
mhm.
finds, okay, this code is up to mark and everything is good. Then you can merge this your code to the actual development branch.
So that person knows MuleSoft well.
Um, yes, that should be because you if you develop the code in the Mulesoft, that person should know the Mulesoft. What standard
Okay,
you follow, how you develop. If you have any question, he can come back to you and ask the question like how you
okay,
standard, something like that. So
yeah,
yeah. Sometimes developer have access to development directly where they can push the changes to the develop branch. That depends upon company to company how they follow that
yeah,
style, right? So it is one of the most important part where we reside all our sources, right?
yeah.
So when you want to deploy to the development environment, we need to take the course code from the develop and we need to develop to the deploy to the develop environment. So I just mentioned we have the 4 environments, right? So yeah, we have develop environment, test environment, pre-prod and production, right?
Mhm.
So from the branches, from the master branch that take the code, it will deploy to the production environment. Always master branch is the final branch where we manage always the consistent stable code. So it will go to the production environment. Release branch, it will to the test environment, right? And
Mhm.
develop branch into the development environment. So when a code commit happens to the develop branch, somebody commits a code. Somebody, if Adam created a code and Adam sent a pull request. So his reviewer, something called John. John approves the Adam code and John merges the code to the develop branch. So
Mhm.
once the code comes to develop branch, what our strategy is, and automatically a process needs to run and try to deploy this code to the development environment in our runtime.
Okay.
So how this process happens. So for that, you need to have idea of the Git. That is the first process. How to what is the Git commits, Git push, Git pull request. That is the first step, right? First step you need to hide the Git because the source of your source code is the repository from where we are getting the code, right?
Mhm.
So this is the one. Um, the second thing is the most important thing is you need to understand about today my goal is about this thing. I will explain this thing. Okay. And next is I given some code, some article to install Jenkins, right? Hope you will install, right? Okay.
You know, I think I played with Jenkins one way back, and I'm thinking I might already have it in my system.
No problem, no problem. Keep it. So we'll connect all the dots in this weekend session. Right now,
Yeah.
I'm explaining about dots. Okay, we connect all the dots. The
Okay.
first dot you need to learn about the Git. It is first dot. Okay. So you need to know about Git commands, some little commands like how to commit the code to Git. What is the local repository? What is the remote repository?
Mm.
Remote repo, local repo. Git is some kind of distributed source code management. So every developer has its own repository, and there is one central repository where all the developers code resides. Okay.
Mm.
So have understanding of local repo and central repo. If you don't have this concept, there are numerous articles and numerous videos available on the internet. Please go through that thing and try to do some Git practice. Some do any small example project. Not it should not be in a Mulesoft, any kind of simple source, and try to commit the code and try to push the code to the remote repository. Okay,
Mm.
simple practice on the Git, right? And second thing, you need to know how to create environments in Mulesoft. Okay? How to create environments in Mulesoft. And here you need to create the branches. How to create branches also important. Create a branch. Create a branch in Git. You need to have some idea on what is a branch and how to create a branch and how to merge the branch. Only that is the idea you need. Okay, right, Adam?
Yeah.
So this part, please you take care. If you have any questions, I will happy to help you and explain you that. I can't explain from the start point of Git.
Okay.
So you take care of it, and if you have any queries, I can help you on the process. Okay. And
Okay.
today I'd like to start with the Mulesoft area, that is how to create environments in Mulesoft runtime. Okay. So this is the second step, because if you know the environment, how to create an environment, then you can able to push the environment, right? Right. So this is one. And third concept is you need to have idea of API gateway. What is the API gateway concept?
You call it ABA gateway. Okay, I see.
Okay. And the fourth concept you need to have how to configure environments in Mule application.
So when are you saying like environment, are you talking about inside the Git, or are you talking about the MuleSoft?
Mulesoft. Inside the Git, you need to create different branches. For develop, you need to create a develop branch. Okay, just you need to know how to create a branch in the Git. That is different story. That is not related to Mulesoft. In this branch, you can store .NET code, Python code, any kind of code you can store in the Git, right? Okay. So in the Git end, you need to know how to create a branch.
Yeah.
So we created a separate branch for each environment.
Cool. So in like for companies, they already have a dev branches, right?
Yeah.
So they're only gonna give you the path, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You're not gonna create unless if it's already there, you use it. If it's not, you will create.
Yeah, you need to create a branches in the Git. Okay, for each by default, you create a repository. It come with the master branch in the Git. Okay, so you need to create other branches like develop branch, test branch. You need to create in the Git. Okay, So just to explore about how to create a branch in Git, it is a generic topic, and afterwards you get idea about the Git branches. And the second step is how to create Mulesoft environment. That I will going to create the Mulesoft. It's very simple. In create Mulesoft environment in Anypoint Platform, and API gateway is little important topic. And I will tell you how to create an API gateway. What is an API gateway? That the topic. And third thing is how to configure environment in Mulesoft application. So you get doubt what is second step and what is fourth step, right? Second step is creating an environment in Mulesoft platform, Anypoint platform, right? So this is a platform where we are going to deploy our application, right? There is a development environment, test environment, and production environment. Maybe I say there are three environments. We can deploy application to development, to test, or to the production. So how to create this box inside the Mulesoft Anypoint platform where we can deploy our applications. So here, how to configure environments in the Mulesoft application. So this is a part when you creating an application, you need to tell in the application that okay, development environment lies at this point. Test environment will configure at this, and production configure. If you provide these details in the application, when you're deploying this application, right? First we need to view what what environment we're going to deploy. So this part has all the details of the where the development environment and what is username and password to connect to that environment is all the details. So the application will get deployed to the development environment. Right? So this is where we create the environments, and this is where we configure the environment inside the application. Right? So then the fifth thing is you need to configure something called automating the tool that is called Jenkins. Jenkins is the guy where we are writing all the steps, how to fetch the resources from the Git and where to deploy. All the steps we can write in Jenkins, right? So this way where we write the pipe, something called pipeline. I can show you how to write a pipeline, how to automate that. Okay, so long way, and today we create a simple Mulesoft environment and little thinking about the API gateway. That is the concept I want to focus today. Right?
Okay.
Right. How to create an environment in the Mulesoft. So in Mulesoft, everything is in the Anypoint platform. Right. So let me open the Anypoint platform. So what is the URL to open Anypoint platform? Anypoint.mulesoft.com. Okay. So when you log into this anypoint.mulesoft.com, you will create an account and you can log in. You can see the dashboard of this Anypoint platform. Right. So in the dashboard, something called big box. This is management center. This is the segment where you can manage your Anypoint platform. So in the management center, there is one button. This access management. Right. This access management. You can see the different parts in the access management. You can create a new users, you can create a new roles, you can create an environments, you can configure the authentication providers, client providers, logs, so several things are there. Okay. So today our goal is you need to create the new environments. For that, you have to go for the environments. You go for environments, by default you can see actually by default if you open your thing, right, you can see only two environments, design and sandbox. But as part of my applications, I created two more environments like environment test. If you want to create a new environment, add environment button is there, add environment. And what kind of environment is this? Production, sandbox, and design. So for us, we can't create the production environment because our account is a free account. To create the production environment, you need to have the official Mulesoft license with you. Okay. So as we don't have that license, we need to create a sandbox environment. And we can give the name as production. That's that different story. Just you can name as production. Just it's the only name. Okay. You can give
Yeah,
it anything.
it's a label.
It as a
Just label.
the prod, simple terms prod, create. So the prod environment create. So likewise, simple thing, go to access management and add environments and add the environment. Right? If you open that environment, I just create a prod environment. If you open the prod environment by clicking this link, and you can see the client ID and client secret. Okay. So this is the unique credentials for this environment.
Mm-hmm.
These things you require. If you want to deploy anything to the production environment, you need to use this client ID and client secret in your automatic process. So that will be able to connect and able to deploy. Right? Got it, Adam?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, so this is required. So likewise, you want to deploy to dev environment, you need to give the dev credentials. How to connect to dev environment? You need to
That's right.
client secret of the dev environment.
Mm-hmm.
So the fundamental is for each environment you created, there is a credentials got created automatically. You need to provide those credentials if you want to deploy application to that environment. That is the fundamental.
That's right.
So the first step is done. It's very simple. Very simple.
Environment.
Create environment by giving environment name. Okay. Thank you. So next step is you need to learn about API gateway. So what is API gateway? Okay, this is little interesting, little important concept.
Yep.
So when you developing your applications, right? But suppose you're developing some application. So when your client provided the application requirements, there are two kinds of requirements usually. One is called functional requirements. Functional requirements. And second is non-functional requirement. So anytime you heard about these things, Adam, functional requirement, non-functional requirements.
Functional and function, yeah. So I think I might understand this. So functional requirement is that the the mandatory features that the application should have, right?
And fantastic. This mandatory business requirement.
Yeah.
Mandatory business requirement. So this is satisfied. The core area of the customer requirement is satisfied. This is if you want to develop some kind of calculator. If you pass the two numbers, you need to return the sum of the two numbers. If you do that coding, that is called function requirement, right? So then, what are non-function requirements?
Yeah. So it's opposite of that, right? There are some features.
Yeah.
And my application has.
Exactly.
But it's not. And it's good to have it, but it's not required. You know what they call that?
It's maybe talking about performance.
Yeah.
So if you do the two numbers and you mean the the result is returning after 10 minutes, there's no use, right?
Mm.
You expect the result within fraction of seconds, right? So that expectation, because performance is one of the non-functional requirement, and security.
Yeah.
Right? So and proper logging means if your application fails, we need to troubleshoot and we need to know the reason immediately. If you do the proper logging, you go to log file, you can find out the reason immediately. If you don't do proper logging, you have no clue about that error, right? So it's very tough to identify the error. So performance, security, logging, transaction management, These are all comes under non-functional requirement, right?
So in this case,
Yeah,
we're using this term is like a functional requirement and non-functional requirement to
right.
to separate what application does
Yeah,
versus what other things the application might need to function.
right. So when you develop application, we need to focus majorly on function requirement, and we need
Yeah.
address non-functional requirement also. We're not saying that okay, non-functional requirement is not my responsibility. I won't focus. No, no. Your client won't satisfy if you won't, if you need to satisfy both, right? Okay.
So they are both important.
Exactly, both important.
Mm.
Then how can if you do one thing, if you separate the function requirement and non-functional requirement, means if you ask your developers to focus only, some kind of functional requirements, and you separate out the non-functional requirement,
Mm.
right? All these things for our security, all the stuff. And you can add this non-functional requirement to your code if you want to remove that. This is called a kind of policy. In Mulesoft terminology, it's called policy. Yeah, so policies are non-functional requirements. Those I can add to this code. Okay, I can remove this from requirement. They have some kind of flexibility, right? So I can put this all non-functional requirement in a place that is called API gateway. Okay. So how we are managing this kind of infrastructure in Mule? So in Mule, what happens is when you create an API. So where do you create an API? In Mulesoft, there are two, we can say two planes. One plane we call as a control plane. And second plane we have a runtime plane. Okay. So runtime plane where the all Mule server, maybe it may be Cloud Hub, it may be standalone. Okay. So where actually your Mule application is running, where you deploy the Mule application that is taking the system server resources running. This is called server actually, right?
Yeah.
It may be running in the cloud or running on the your own private cloud or running on the standalone or running on the Kubernetes cluster, whatever. Where your application is running and taking the memory and CPU resources, that is called runtime plane. Okay. So control plane usually is a cloud hub where we control this application. Control plane is a place from where we control application. We need to deploy application, we need to undeploy application, we need to add the policies, we can remove the policies, whatever thing we can do. We're managing the application from a place called control plane.
Mm.
Runtime plane is a place where actually the application is running. It's taking the resource of the CPU, memory, all the stuff and is running. That's a runtime plane. Okay. Mulesoft is had divided two parts, so control plane and runtime plane. So in the control plane, we have a design center where we develop an application, where we design an API. Right? After designing what to do, we will publish that API to Exchange. I shown you, right, Adam, how to publish the API to Exchange from the design center.
Event exchange.
Okay.
Yeah, we did. We
Yeah.
did.
When you publish an API to
Mm.
the design center, when you publish an API from design center to Exchange, there is one unique ID created for this API that is called API ID.
Mm-hmm.
For each API you publish to the Exchange, there is some unique ID got created. Okay. So to manage this API, there is one more section called API Manager.
Yeah.
API Manager is a place where you manage API. So if you create an instance of this API in API Manager, we can see this API instance ID. What ID for that content? It's a unique ID. Okay. So what you need to do is when you create an API, that API has one unique instance ID. Okay. Okay. So the application actual running in the runtime manager in the runtime plane. Okay. The application actually running in runtime plane. Runtime plane, what I can do is I can the application has two requirements. One is the
Functional.
take the application. So to take the application, right? So it has the application you need to talk to your control plane. Right? So for that, I shown you one time, I think you remember, that is something called agent is
Agent, right?
agent, runtime agent.
Yeah.
Okay. So agent is the component that is talking to your control plane.
Yeah.
When you want to deploy or undeploy, you just send an agent, and agent will take care of that. Okay.
Mm.
So we have agent, we have the functional code, actual core functional code in the application. And here the fundamental is, so you develop an application for this API, but this is customer API example.
Mm.
Customer API, and in the Anypoint studio, you develop the customer API MPL and deployed that customer API MPL to the runtime. Sorry, here in the cloud example. Okay,
Mm.
is the customer API IMPL implementation code, right? And if you want to apply any policy to this application, or if you want to remove any policy extra, you have any if you want to add a new caching kind of policy or security policy, any policy,
Mm.
you need to communicate with this ID, because your API manager is district ID, right? Okay. If you put this ID inside your application, then what happens is, this API manager can able to add these policies to your application.
Mm.
able to communicate with using this unique ID. If you need to add this unique ID to this application. Okay, this is the channel or bridge. Your API manager is able to add policies or remove policies to the application running in the runtime manager. Right. So this ID we call as a API auto discovery. API auto discovery ID. Why this API auto discovery ID required is it forms a bridge between your API manager and the application running in the runtime plane and the cloud. Okay. So what we do is while deploying this application to the cloud, you add this ID inside this application and you deploy this application to the cloud. Before deploying itself, you take the ID from the runtime manager, API manager, and add that ID to your application and deploy application to the cloud. So it sees, right? If its ID matches, then it will manage this application. You can able to add the policies, you can remove the policies, and what it can do it does. This is the ID is a bridge. Okay, so let me quickly implement this. I can show you so that you can able to understand. What I can do is I can simply create a simple API. Go to the design center. New application. I am developing something like a student API. Simply creating one simple resource called students.
Students get response to our questions.
Simple and create simple API.
Yeah, yeah.
This I will close this. And I want to publish this API to the exchange. So would publish and publish to exchange. Initial version that is 1.0.0 and version 1 to exchange. Okay. Once you publish to exchange, I'm going to API manager. So I want to manage this API. So for that, I need to register this API over here. Then only I can able to manage. Okay. So API manager, add API and add new API. And from the Mule gateway, Flux gateway is very new concept. Okay, we'll discuss later.
Yeah.
This is a Mule gateway, a Mule API gateway embedded in the Mule runtime. I told right, Mule runtime gateway is embedded. So gateway embedded in Mule runtime can directly to existing Mule application, right? So Mule gateway, and I'll discuss this proxy also little after this one. To connect to the existing application basic endpoint. recommended. Next, and which API you want to? I want to country system API, student system API. This is the one, right? So select this.
He already knows it.
Yeah. And next, you want to do anything like you can do label or everything is optional. You can go for it. Okay. And it's optional. See. So once you configured, once you registered, right? One API ID is created. This is called API instance ID. This is called ID. Okay. So I'm come back to my Anypoint studio. I want to create an application. Mulesoft project. Mulesoft project, and the project name is student API PL. And I want to create.
Are you importing?
Yeah, importing that one.
Okay.
Go to my design center. Students is API. So if you see the design center, right, for here,
Yeah.
status is unregistered.
Yeah.
Unregistered means it's not running actually. If you see, it is called unregistered. Nothing is running, right? Status to API. This one status unregistered. So let me see a walk deployment to the runtime. Okay, one finish. My simple project got created. My goal is not about the project. My goal is about the auto discovery and API gateway concept. Okay.
Okay.
What I'm doing is I want to deploy this to the Cloud Hub. Before that, you want to deploy to Cloud Hub. How the API manager know this is application running in the cloud. Okay. So for that, I need to add some auto discovery ID over here. Go to your global configuration. And the global configuration. Set for in the filter, set for API auto discovery. And you to give the API ID. The API ID.
Yeah. We get that from.
Yeah. So this is one API instance ID. Copy this one. And the main flow. So this main flow is there somewhere. You can see the main flow. Save it. Now I want to apply this to the product. So right click over here. Product.
There's so many components, my friend.
Yeah. Oh my God. My trial got ended. I need to create a new account.
Yeah.
Lot of cost. No account. I need to configure again all the APIs. So So
you know, yeah, it's
I create a new account in the next class, man. It takes another 15 minutes to me to get all this stuff again.
yeah, yeah, that's fine. You know, I hope, you know, hopefully when we have you know, we'll go through this might be another time when we have a real case. But and this is really, you know, what I don't know, what I'm finding out, my friend, is that not only you need to be good at MuleSoft, but also you have to also know all this other stuff that, you know, you like to deploy it in a different environment, and there's so many other components that are in the play.
Yeah, yeah. If you practice the two or three, three applications for deploying different environments, then you can.
Yeah, then it's easy, right? It
Yeah.
becomes easy.
You can.
So talk to me, and I have a question. And way back, we discussed it, and I heard also, I read somewhere else
Mhm,
that I read somewhere else, and I think you mentioned as well, way at the beginning,
mhm.
that the nice thing about the mule is that it has a way that, you know, for example, like a different, I don't know, they call it, I don't know, it's a different level of connectivity, right? So
Different.
they say application connectivity, platform and connectivity, experience connectivity.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You are talking about API-led connectivity
yeah,
from system layer, process layer,
r-
experience layer.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So what are we talking about in that situation? Like when we're doing get and post, are we saying that, I don't know?
That is a different, complete architectural concept. That is one level above what we are doing now. So you will develop different kinds of APIs. Uh,
Yeah.
it may be process API, a system API, and experience API. So whatever APIs you are developing, so
Uh,
that has to deploy in your runtime, right? In your production server, right?
yeah, yeah.
So you want to deploy at what level it follows. Maybe see if you have a system API, the system API has a development environment. It's the same system API go to production, sorry, some test and production. So all these API connectivity layers has presence in development, test, and production.
Okay, so
Yeah,
so say that when we're connecting to a database,
yeah, yeah,
we're
yeah,
doing database connectivity.
yeah.
At that level, we're doing system
Layer, correct.
API.
Yeah, database, file system, MQs, and this Salesforce is all you define system layer system. And
Okay.
in the process layer, you may connect to different system layers. You get data from different system layers, and you can
Yeah,
connect them. You can
yeah.
merge them, and you build them one big payload, right? So that's the process layer.
And what is the experience then?
Experience layer is for specific to client. Some clients want only XML. I want XML. And some client requesting I want only JSON. Some client just I send me the file. To serve that specific client,
Mm,
will do will code how to send that interact to that specific client. That kind of APIs we develop experience API.
mm,
Some are mobile clients, some are web clients. Inside the web, some people are have different media type.
yeah.
So based on the customer end client, so we develop the experience APIs.